Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of the Cedar Arrows podcast. My name is Rebecca. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Happy Homemaker05. I am a Christian, a wife, a homeschooling mom, homemaker, homesteader, homebody, a knitter, a reader, and this channel is just where I enjoy chatting with you about all of those things, but mostly knitting. So grab a project and settle in and let's chat for a bit. It has been 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks since I recorded. Today is Saturday, November 16th, and we are finally getting some crisp, cool weather here, and we are loving it so much. Our yard is covered in dry, rustly leaves that the animals are enjoying kind of frolicking around in. My children don't do that so much anymore, but last year my youngest did rake a ton and just had huge piles of leaves in hopes that he could charge his siblings like I think it was 10 cents per jump into the piles. It didn't go so well, so I don't think he's doing that again this year, but anyway, we are really enjoying the cooler weather and the pretty changing of the leaves and excited to be at this time of year. So like I said, it's been just over 2 weeks since I recorded. I always shoot for Thursdays. This Thursday it just did not happen. I kind of had the opportunity to take the day off for the most part. I mean, there was still laundry to do and, you know, some things here and there, but not as much of a full schedule. And I'm detangling yarn while I talk to you already. So I had the opportunity to take that day mostly off, and then kind of spur of the moment got to go meet my husband in town for lunch on his lunch break. So I did not fit this in on Thursday. So it's Saturday today. And I was determined to do it this week because if not this week, it might not happen before Thanksgiving. So I'm really glad to be sitting down and have a little bit of time to chat with you all today. So as is always the case, a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. So I'll give you a quick update on a few of the things we've been up to, and then we'll talk knitting. So I mentioned in the last episode that my older 4 children were getting ready for a trip to Georgia to help with some disaster response efforts happening there. Still trying to clean up from the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. So a group of, I think it was 14, mostly from our church congregation, traveled together to Georgia at the beginning of last week to work with a large disaster response group, a large organization that is made up of volunteers from all over the country, and they had kind of planted at in this town in Georgia and were working directly with the local church in that town. So so the group from our congregation traveled together to Georgia, and then were staying in that church building while they were going out during the day to do whatever work needed to be done. So there were things like, you know, lots of trees that were taken down during the storm that needed to be cut up and cleared away, lots of brush and debris. There was some roofing that needed to be done that my father-in-law and one of my sons helped with. And of course, maintaining the facility they were staying in. There were volunteers there to cook meals, and those same volunteers did laundry for all the workers during the day. So at least one or two of my children learned how to use a chainsaw and got a lot of experience with that. They all got lots of time hauling brush and hauling logs that had been cut up and that kind of thing. Then some of them stayed behind some days and helped with the cooking and the laundry and the cleaning around the facility, that kind of thing. Basically, there's something for everybody. There's all kinds of work to be done. And so you just tell them what things you're capable of and what things you know how to do, and they will find something for you to do and put you to work. So that was a really great experience for them. Of course, we all would have preferred for the storm not to have happened. But I am so thankful that there is such a well-run organization that could provide help, and that my children were able to have the experience of helping where their help was needed. They worked very hard. They were completely exhausted when they came home, but they were also so encouraged and so full of stories, and just really had a great sense of accomplishment from all the work they had put in. My younger two children stayed here at home. It just wasn't feasible this time for everybody to go. There were still things that needed to be done here, and space was limited in the vehicles that were traveling. So this time it just made sense for the older four to go and the younger ones to stay. And, you know, I think it's normal to want to go and do. You know, they wanted to go and be a part of what was happening elsewhere. But something that I have learned in my nearly 20 years as a military wife, and that I've been trying to help them learn, is that it is good to find contentment and peace in being the one who stays behind. Not everybody can go. There are still things that need to be done here. For us personally, there are animals to feed, and you know, that's the biggest thing, is that we have livestock to take care of. So it is, especially I think for a family with our lifestyle where we have always done things together, I think it's just very normal to want to go and do this new thing together. But there's so much value in keeping the home fires burning, you know, and keeping things running smoothly, taking care of the things that need care here, and providing a warm, comfortable, safe place for the others to land when they get back. So while at least one of my younger sons really wanted to go and would have enjoyed going, I think that was a good thing for him to learn, that there is value in staying home. There's value in being the support person. So I'm really glad that we were able to send some. We also kept some of the younger children from one of the families who did go. And so we were able to provide support in that way as well. So my younger sons had some extra chores to do, but I did lighten their school load for the week. And then they also had friends to play with all week long. So they had a good week. They had a lot of fun. The fact that we had friends over all week long meant that the kids kind of fended for themselves more. They didn't, and we weren't doing all of our school schedule. So they were outside a whole lot. I got a lot of extra knitting time. It was a good week for everybody, you know, a lot different for the ones that were doing all the physical labor versus the ones that were at home, but it was a good week. This week, our church congregation had a gospel meeting, Sunday through Wednesday, which was wonderful. I don't really hear other churches. I'm a member of the Church of Christ, and I don't really hear that term, gospel meeting, from other people that are not members of the Church of Christ. So some people call it a revival. But basically we have a guest speaker that comes. Usually he does 3 sessions on Sunday. We have a Bible class hour and a morning worship hour. And then for this particular week, we had worship and then a potluck lunch where everybody ate together, and then an afternoon worship service. And so he spoke 3 times on Sunday, and then we get together in the evenings, you know, an hour or 2 in the evenings, Monday through Wednesday. So he spoke 6 lessons total in the week. And typically we get together for worship, Bible study kind of services twice a week. So having a few extra times together during the week is always very encouraging, very uplifting. And then the actual sermons given by the guest speaker were all so good. So that was a very, you know, you're always tired at the end. It's a lot of extra going and doing, but it's always so worthwhile. Usually there are smaller groups that get together for supper before, or supper or dessert after. I think we stayed behind at the building and just chatted with people for at least an hour after every service. So lots of extra fellowship time, and it was just very cup filling. Such a good week. So that's really why Thursday I kind of took the day off, because we had been busy every day and gone every evening, and just very on the go the first half of the week. So on Thursday I really enjoyed a slow day, but it was such a good meeting, such a good time with brothers and sisters, and just wonderful week. So last week I updated you on the chicks. We still have Solo living in a box in the schoolroom, but she, I think it's a she, is getting a lot bigger. So in the last few days, my husband and children have rebuilt our outside pen. We transitioned them from brooder boxes inside to a pen outside that has, chicken wire sides and a full lid roof so that nothing can get them while they're still small. And then we eventually transition them to the coop with the full-grown chickens. But I'm just wanting to transition this one Solo chick a little more slowly, because she doesn't have anybody to fend for her or even huddle with and keep her warm. So for right now, as the weather is cooling off, she's still spending evenings at nighttime inside, but she's enjoying grass and sunshine outside during the day. And then we hatched 5 chicks from the second batch that we incubated. And I think when I recorded last week, there was 1 that had hatched. And by the time it was all said and done, there were 5 total. So we have those in a different brooder box in the schoolroom as well. And we'll give them a couple more weeks before we start sending them outside during the day. So we are to the point where, they're getting kind of smelly. They're loud, but they sure are cute. Before I get into showing you my projects, I should probably mention what I am wearing. This is the Harbor Fog cowl, designed by Martha Wissing. I found it on Ravelry. It is knit in DK weight yarn. This color, I cannot remember the colorway name, and I didn't write it down, and I don't have the label, but this was dyed by Cedar Hill. Yeah, Cedar Hill Yarns. I don't think she's dyeing anymore. I'm not certain, but anyway, I think it's beautiful. I love this color. And then the speckled off-white and the blue are both from Cozy Colorworks, hand dyed. The speckled colorway is called Blueberries and Cream, and then the solid blue is called Navy Blue. I bought these at Stitches. I think it was called Stitches United in Atlanta in 2019. I had a very small niece and nephew, and then also a young son that really wanted to go with me to this yarn festival. So it was the first time I'd ever been to something like this. And I pulled them out of bed and stuck them in the car in their pajamas, and we drove to Atlanta and shopped till we dropped and then drove home. It was a super long day, but I got to meet the dyers behind Cozy Colorworks, and they were wonderful. They let the children touch and hold the yarns, and they gave everybody who wanted one a tiny little sample wrapped around a little card, which I thought was really cool. Smart way for people to, it was enough yardage that you could knit maybe a little swatch or something and kind of try out their yarns. But they let the children dig through that bowl and find the scrap they most wanted, which was just a really sweet touch. So this is, I've talked about this before, but I love the way that memories and experiences are woven into the pieces we make. And this is a very sweet, nostalgic piece that I enjoy wearing because it's beautiful, but also because of those experiences. The next year was 2020 with the pandemic, and Stitches doesn't even have festivals anymore. It is a thing of the past. That was the only one I ever got to go to. I have only been to 2 yarn festival markets ever. They're not as prevalent here in the South as other places in the States. And so that was such an epic day. And I brought home these 3 colorways intending, actually I had a third colorway to knit with these and it didn't work as well. So I ended up ordering this one, I think. But I intended this to be a different cowl and then kind of stumbled into this pattern. And it was such an awesome day. And I really like, you know, the way that those memories kind of wrap around you when you put on a piece that is so full of those memories. So, all right. So I think that's all that I wanted to mention. I guess now let's talk knitting. Let me see. Today I have 3 finished objects, right? 4 finished objects. I forgot to bring one of them in here. So we're going to get that in a minute. I have 4 finished objects this week and only 1 whip. I am kind of in between. I have 3 bags over here next to me with yarn and needles ready to go, but I haven't cast them on yet because I've been trying to focus more on 1 or 2 things at a time instead of all the things, because sometimes that's fine and sometimes it stresses me out. So so I doubt that I will cast all 3 of those on right away. I might, try to just knock out 1 at a time, but I have 3 that I'm not even going to worry with showing you right now because they're not even whips yet. But I have lots of FOs this week. So I'll start with my most recent one. I've literally grafted the last toe maybe an hour ago on these socks. This is the DK Weight Vanilla Sock Pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, but I did add some slip stitch details along the little bit of leg I have here and the front of the sock. I used her pattern for the numbers and everything, but I did change the stitch pattern just a tiny bit. Just because I wanted to, just creates a little more interest. This yarn is Squish Sock from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. So their sport weight base, and the colorway is called 2 Guns. My middle daughter loves browns and greens and earthy colors. And so when I saw this, I was a little bit torn as to whether it would be for her or for me. But I think that I might be able to get another pair out of it since she likes such short socks. I might be able to get another shorty pair. I haven't actually weighed the yarn yet to know. But I cast these on Tuesday. I wasn't planning on doing them right away. I knew I still needed to get 1 pair of birthday socks done before late December, but I wasn't planning on rushing that. But I needed to cake up some other yarn, so I thought I might as well just wind it while the Swift is out, And then I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to cast it on. And then I knit the entire sock that day. I've never done that before in my life. I'm not a very fast knitter. We had our gospel meeting that night, so I was away from home some, although I did knit that night during the meeting. It just knits up so much faster than a fingering weight sock. And she likes this, tiny, I think this is maybe 30 rows before the heel flap. So it's not like knitting a sock for one of my sons. This whole sock is less work than the leg for one of the boys. So it just kind of flew. I've never knit something, a whole sock that fast before. And I wasn't even trying to. It wasn't like this was the goal until I was on the toe and I was like, well, now I'm going to finish this before I go to bed. But I wound the yarn something like 10 in the morning. And then I just decided, well, I might as well cast it on. That would be an easy thing to knit on while I'm having tea with the boys. So, because I read to them during our book club. So I knit the whole leg and was starting on the heel flap in the time it took me to read 2 chapters with them in our book. And then I put it down and worked on something else for a while, and I did other things, laundry and housework and stuff. And then I would pick it up and knit a few rows here and there, and I could not believe how fast it was going. So, you know, I talked last time about not being in a hurry, and I'm really not. I really love to knit, and I'm going to be knitting, whether it's the same project for months or one after another, I'm going to be knitting. So I don't feel a desperate need to hurry, but it is kind of satisfying when something just works up that quickly. So these don't have to be gifted until late December, but that is out of the way, and I can stick them in my closet, and I'll probably actually wrap them early so it's just done, because I am the world's worst about wrapping things. I end up not doing it until the day of, and that's stressful, so I'll probably get those completely ready to give her early on, and that feels really good. The next finished object I will show you is actually my first. The first one I finished since my last episode, but those were just on the blockers already. I finished my son's socks. This is another Crazy Sock Lady pattern. This is the morning coffee socks. I have the other one here. Last time I recorded, I was on the foot, I think pretty early on the foot of both of those. But that weekend, we went to a football game with some friends. One of my friend's daughter is in the marching band at her college, and she is about to graduate next month. And so this was one of her final games to, you know, be in the marching band. And so a bunch of us got together and had lunch and tailgated for the afternoon and then went to the game. And so I had hours of knitting time. And so I finished. I got all the way to the toe on both socks by the end of Saturday, 2 weeks ago, which for me was pretty fast. And then I finished both toes on Sunday. And then as I was finishing, I didn't graft the toes. I just knit all the way, like finished the toe, but I didn't graft it. And as I was finishing, I'm not even sure now which one it was, if it was this one or the other one. As I was finishing, I realized that I had messed up a couple of places on the foot with this stitch pattern. And if you're not looking for it, I don't think it would be painfully obvious. It's on the foot, so that's going to be in a shoe most of the time when he wears it. So I decided I wasn't going to worry about it, and I just carried on and finished the toe. But then the next morning, I woke up Monday morning and I was like, no, I'm not giving that to him that way. And so I ripped back half the foot of one of the socks and reknit that half of the foot and the toe that day. So I felt kind of crazy ripping it out. I was kind of annoyed, but I am such a process knitter. I don't have to give these to him, you know, this weekend or anything. They're for Christmas. And so I thought I will feel better, even if he never sees it. I will feel better if I fix what I did wrong on the foot. And it was nothing major. It was just no huge mistake. Just I missed something in the stitch pattern. But it was only like, it was 2 different places. These pearl rows that go across the whole foot. I think I had forgotten where I was in the repeat at least 2 different places, but only like for half of the sock because of the way I had the socks oriented on the needles. If I was like halfway through the front of the sock and then had to put it down, I think what I did was I picked it up and didn't realize where I was and just knit instead of the knitting and purling. Anyway, it's been a couple of weeks. I don't remember exactly. It doesn't really matter. But I debated and I slept on it and I decided I would rather knit that second half of that sock again than give it to him with that flaw. So I finished it again, you know, that night, like I said. And I'm really happy with them, and I'm so glad I did it. It's worth the extra couple of hours to me to have it look the way it's supposed to look. Now I realize, of course, perfectionism can go to an extreme, but it's not really about perfection. It's not going to be perfect, and there's actually at least one There's one other small area that I didn't fix that was further back. They're not going to be perfect. They're handmade. There are going to be variations. I'm not worried about perfection, but I do want to do the best I can, especially for a gift, you know? So I'm very happy with these. He will love them. It was a very fun pattern to work up. You know, it was kind of the perfect mixture between enough interest, enough variation that it's a little more engaging than a vanilla sock, but easy to knit while doing other things, easy to see where you are in the repeat if you look instead of just picking it up and knitting. Easy to see where you are, easy to memorize the pattern. I don't think I'd ever knit this pattern before, but I really liked it. So again, that was the Morning Coffee sock pattern, and the yarn is Knit Picks Stroll in the Poppy colorway. So that I think that I couldn't remember, and so I don't think I said last time, but that was pair number 5 out of 6 pairs that I needed to make for my kids for Christmas. And my next finished object is pair number 6. So this is the project I forgot to bring in here, and I had to run and get them real quick. This is my last pair of kid socks for this Christmas. This is the pattern is called Socks on a Plane, designed by Laura Linneman. They're on Ravelry. It's just a very simple, I think it's 3x3 cable traveling up the outside of the sock. So it's just one side, the other is vanilla, but so you have a right and a left sock for this pattern. The yarn is from Maker's Haven. I won this sock set in a giveaway hosted by Amy of Noble Character Crafts, and it was 2 50-gram balls in different colorways and then a mini that coordinated with both. So I used the other 50-gram ball for my daughter's birthday socks this summer, and then set this aside to use for her Christmas socks for this year. It's I always forget what it's called. The colorways were the sock set was a Harry Potter Dobby colorway, and I don't remember exactly what it was called. But she does not dye yarn anymore. And I never bought anything from her before she stopped dyeing, and I was kind of sad about that. But then I won this in this giveaway, so that was really cool. So I love this color, kind of a purpley, maroony wine color for the cuff. And then this fun little micro striping effect for the body of the sock. And then the toe is some leftovers from other projects. It's Emma's yarn, and I think it's like Himalayan salt or pink salt, something like that is the colorway for that one. But yeah, I think it's so cute. So I made these while my daughter was gone to Georgia doing the disaster relief work, and her socks are so quick because she's got such cute small feet and she likes basically no leg. So I think I knit 1 row after the cuff before starting the heel flap and no, for this one I did 1 cable repeat. So it's got like 6 or 7 rows after the cuff before I started the heel flap. So I'm really happy with these. I think she'll really like them. And I'm so excited that all their Christmas socks are finished. And now the birthday socks I needed to get done are finished. So I am ahead of I'm ahead of schedule for this year for their gifts. So that is such a good feeling. I love to watch I put them on a shelf in my closet and just kind of stack them up. And I love watching that little stack grow on that shelf. It just feels so kind of luxurious, you know, like how many kids in the world get hand knit socks for Christmas? I feel like that's really pretty special, you know? That's not me patting myself on the back. That's just me appreciating knitting. I hope that came across the right way. So my last finished object is a tiny little hat. I don't know if I can get this to show well because it's such a bright colorway. That's pretty good, I think. So this is the Light as a Feather hat designed by Katie Herrod of Songbird Handmade. I've talked about this before. You've seen me knit several of these probably. I have knit several of them anyway. I know I have a hat in this pattern. I've knit it for several baby gifts. At least one of my kids has a hat knit in this pattern. It's a great pattern. The yarn is Malibu Beach from Candy Shop Yarns. It was the full skein from Candy Shop Yarns Advent Calendar last year. And I really liked it, and I had a friend who I knew would love it. So I put some in my habitation throw, which is behind me, finished off the last little corner with the full, with a little bit from the full skein, and I ordered a second skein and knit my friend a shawl for her birthday, and then I've just been using what's left on little things here and there. So I thought this was perfect for a little hat for a girl, and I love the way it knit up. So I'll be sending this to my friend very soon, and then I have another one of the bags that's over here ready to go. I'll be knitting this pattern again in other yarn for a different baby gift pretty soon. So I love the way that knit up. That takes a couple of days, and like for the smallest size, did I say that? I knit the smallest size, the baby size. For the smallest size, I think it didn't take 50 grams. I don't remember. I weighed it, but I don't remember. I don't think I've ever mentioned. Side note, I usually try to at least link my project pages in the description box below the video on YouTube. So if you ever want to know more about the pattern or my project, I link my own project page, and then in that project page is a link to the pattern. So I don't remember how much it weighed, but I will make sure that that is in the project page in case that's helpful. I always, using up scraps for baby things, I always think that'll probably be enough, but I like to know how many grams, and so I know if I have enough of my little leftovers. So I'll try to make sure that's on the page, but you can always look in my description box and find it. They're not terribly detailed show notes, but I do at least link my projects there. Goodness, I always think I'm going to be less scattered this time, and then I feel like there's always stuff I forget to say. So thanks for bearing with me, and I hope that I can come across less scattered than I feel in my head. Also, I'm sorry for the scratchy throat. I know my voice is like froggy and in and out. It just is what it is this time of year. Okay, so I've shown you all my finished objects. I have one whip for this week, and you have seen it before, but I've made a lot of progress. This is my Earthshine cowl, designed by Hilary Smith Callis. I am knitting it as part of the Friends That Craft Together MAL that Emily of Salt City Knits and Kelly of Lay Family Yarn are co-hosting. It has been kind of a back burner project because I've been working on gifts, but I do really intend to finish it this month. Before the make-along ends, and I'm enjoying it so much. So I waxed eloquent last time talking about these yarns, so I won't go into as much detail today, but I hand dyed both of these. I dyed them intending them to go together. I knit them into a shawl, ended up ripping that out, and I've had these yarns sitting in my cabinet for years, or sitting in my closet as a shawl that I wasn't wearing for years. So these were really special skeins to me, and I kept hanging on to them, and I was afraid to knit with them and choose the wrong pattern again. But it was the Friends That Craft Together make-along that really prompted me to pick them back up and make something that I would love with them. So I'm so glad that I decided to do that. It was a little bit spur of the moment. Like those yarns, you all have this too, if you love yarn. those were the two skeins that were just sitting in the back of my mind, like taking up a lot of real estate back there. Like something I knew I wanted to knit, but I couldn't decide what. And so when I finally decided I'm going to participate in this make along, I'm going to find a pattern and I'm going to knit that yarn. It didn't take me long. I deliberated a little bit between two different patterns, but when I finally made the decision, I kind of pulled out the yarn and needles and got started like really quickly. Kind of spur of the moment, I guess. In the middle of all the gift knitting, not really sure how my progress would go and if I really had time to work on a thing for me. I just decided I'm doing it. And I'm really glad that I did. So this progress keeper is where I was last time. I knitted on it while I chatted with you last episode, and then I've been working on it again today as I've been talking with you. But I've made a lot of progress since the last episode, so I'm now past the point where you switch to the contrast color up here becomes the main color down here. And I don't really know exactly the percentage, but I'm nearing the last sections, and I'm really happy with how it's knitting up. So I will have to block it, I think, pretty aggressively. I did block my swatch somewhat aggressively to get the drape and the measurements that I, the suggested measurement for the swatch. In hindsight, maybe it would have been better to move up a needle size. But like I said, it was kind of a spur of the moment, like I'm casting that on right now. So I did go ahead and knit a gauge swatch, so go me. But I didn't really want to knit a second gauge swatch. So I knit the one and I blocked it, and it did block out to the right size. But I'm thinking this is knitting up a little bit dense, but after I block it, it'll loosen up, it'll be more drapey. The fabric will relax is what I'm looking for, the word I'm looking for. So I think it'll be fine. So it's good. Like I said, this has been somewhat of a back burner project because I am working on gifts. I've got these other gift knits over here ready to cast on. And, I have a mental list, I should probably write it down, of several things that I would like to make for friends now that I've got my kids' gifts ready. So this time of year, I love gift knitting, and that really is my main emphasis, my main priority when I'm knitting, especially in November. I try to carve out a little bit more time for knitting just the things I want to knit in December, but I usually am working on small gifts up till the week of Christmas. But I just really love gift knitting. So anyway, my goal is to finish this in time, before the end of November, which is how long the make-along runs. But I never really know how the knitting time is going to balance out between all the projects, because I do have a lot of things I want to make for others. So I'm guessing that next time I probably won't show as many of my projects, because while I can tell my children, you're not watching that podcast yet, I don't tell my friends that. And so I do have some plans for some gifts that will be for people who see this podcast. So I might be doing mostly secret knitting in the next few weeks, but anyway, we'll see. So one really exciting thing that I'm super excited about is that I am going to have an advent calendar after all this year. I'm so excited. I told you last episode that I wasn't going to have one. And at that point I wasn't going to have one. But I ordered one at the very last minute, an extra from Heidi and Lana, and it should be here next week, and I can't wait. So last year I had an advent calendar for the first time because Deborah of Candy Shop Yarns gifted me one of hers, and I still can't believe that gift. I mean, I have talked about it a lot on here. You all know about it. If you don't, go back and watch episodes from this time last year. I knit this beautiful throw that's behind me that lives on this chair with that advent calendar. And then I knit a little leftovers cowl with the leftovers. And I still have tiny, like maybe 5 grams each. I have all those yarns in tiny little balls in a Ziploc bag. I think I want to put those in my cozy memory blanket, but I haven't done it yet because I'm trying to figure out if I want to throw them in and just pull them out randomly. I'm not a very random person. Or if I want to plan out a way to put them together in the blanket. So, you know, like a big chunk or like a square that goes all the way around the blanket. I haven't decided, so they're just still sitting, but I am still love those yarns so much, and it's just, they're so nostalgic, such sweet memories, such an amazing gift. I enjoyed having an advent calendar so much. It was so much fun. Like, that was the first thing I did every morning through the first 24 days of December was, you know, I'd let the dogs out, feed the dogs, and then I'd sit down and open my yarn and wind it up and knit into this blanket first thing every morning or close to it. And I loved it so much. So I had decided to buy less yarn throughout the year with the goal of putting that money toward an advent calendar instead of, you know, all the things you see on Instagram and you immediately buy that you hadn't really planned on buying. So that was part of why I have limited my yarn buying so much this year, was to really focus on working from my stash, and then also to save the money and use some of it for an advent calendar. So most of the yarn I've bought a couple of things for me this year, but most of the yarn I have bought has been for gifts, and most of what I have knit has been from stash. So I feel like I've done pretty well. And after, you know, lots, in case you haven't noticed this, I tend to be a little bit of an overthinker and also kind of a dreamer. And so I spent lots of time looking at advent patterns and looking at different yarn dyers' advent calendars. And I kind of narrowed it down to ordering candy shop yarns this year or ordering from Heidi and Lana. And I think either one would be a fabulous choice. I cannot tell you how much I loved this Candy Shop Yarns advent. I finally decided I was going to order from Heidi and Lana this time. But then when it came time to order, we had several unexpected expenses come up, including our family car died and we had to buy a new to us family vehicle in the spring. And so at the point where Margaret listed her advent calendars, which I had been waiting for and so excited about, I just wasn't sure if I could justify that expense. And, you know, I absolutely believe that it's worth the cost, that, you know, what she charged. I know it's a ton of work. I know it's going to be beautiful. But I just wasn't sure that I could justify buying one right then. And I decided to and decided not to multiple times over the days that listing was up. And I finally decided not to order one. And I felt like that was, you know, if I was in doubt, that I should just not do it, and that I would have plenty of things to knit on and it would be fine. And then I was so sad. I was so sad not to have one coming. And my husband kept saying, that one last year brought you so much joy. I hate for you not to have one. And I was like, well, it's too late now. It's fine. And then last week, or like Thursday of last week, Margaret of Heidi and Lana shared that she had 3 advent calendars left, and she was going to be, and then also she had some stitch marker advent calendars and her Hugo boxes. She had a few extras of each thing. And so I talked with my husband, and we have a better grasp of where we are now than we did right after having bought the car. And anyway, we decided, he said, just do it. If you'll feel better knowing I told you to do it, just go for it. And so I did snag one of the 3 that was available. and it is on its way to me now, and I am so excited. I am so excited. It's just so much fun to have that little bit of Christmassy, happy to look forward to every day. And you know, I would have been fine. I debated on whether or not to even talk about this because, especially, I know talking about the financial side of things can feel a little icky. And I know that that's typically not been good etiquette. So I really debated on what to say or if I should say anything. But I kind of just want to be real without being icky or over the top about it. But you know, it's a real thing that we all have to consider budgets. And you know, for us personally, we are a homeschool family. We are 8 people who live on a single income. And so while I do love to knit and it is something that brings me so much joy, there is more to just that, more to it than just that I have to consider. And while I love it so much, I need to prioritize my family. And this spring, I was not sure if I should order one or not. And then I'm so thrilled that it worked out that I got to. But you know, there have been a lot of years. Last year was the first year I ever had a yarn advent calendar. And if I had not gotten one this year, I would have been okay too. You know, I feel like there is so much FOMO. And you know, there's so much to knit with, so many things to do, so many things to make, so many things to buy, so many nice things to decorate our houses with. And I really want to always be focused more on the act of knitting and the act of giving than just acquiring possessions. So I'm glad, honestly, I'm glad that I made that choice not to buy it when I wasn't sure if I should. And I'm really glad that it worked out that I did get one. But if I hadn't been able to snag one of those last 3 last week, I still would have been okay because I would have felt like I had made the right choice. I hope that makes sense. And also, I am really excited. And it's okay to be both, you know, to have decided not to get it. And then now that I do have it, or have it on the way, I am very thankful. And I'm very excited. And I think that's okay. I don't know if I'm making any sense at this point, but thank you for bearing with my ramblings. I think that's all that I had to talk about today. I do have a lot to do later in the day, so I guess I will wrap up here. I will hope to be back in 2 weeks. You know, Thanksgiving week is very full. We always host Thanksgiving. We have several family members coming to spend that entire day with us, and it's always so much baking, so much cooking. It's my favorite holiday. I'm really excited about all of that. So, you know, Thursday, which is my normal recording day, will absolutely be out. Friday, we usually go and get a Christmas tree and decorate for Christmas. Saturday, the rest of my family watches football. So that is what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to record while they are watching football 2 weeks from today. So I hope to see you soon. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you are enjoying your making and that you will be back with me again in a couple of weeks. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.